Hello and welcome to another InsightB webinar. I hope everything's working just fine. Please let me know if you can see me, if you can hear me, if you can see my slides minimized in the bottom right corner. And let me know where you're coming from, where are you connecting from. Last time we had a lot of people from all around the globe. So hopefully also today, many people will join us from, I see someone from Czechia, from Canada, and I suppose that you can hear me as you're answering my question. Am I right? The Netherlands. Okay, well, before we go on, I had a bit of a crisis just 15 minutes ago because I spent the last 1.5 hours redoing my presentation. I thought I had saved it, and then I restarted my computer, and it turned out it wasn't saved. So I had a very intensive last minutes before the webinar. Athens, hi, Matej from Iran. Hello, people from Iran. So hopefully everything worked out for the best. The slides are not as beautiful as they could have been, but that's not important. So last time our guest was Tim Houlihan. We spoke about the really interesting case studies around motivation. Another speaker before Tim was Torben Emmeling from Affective Advisory from Switzerland. And before we had Sam Tatum from Ogilvy, Oliver Simcoe from a gamification consultancy over here. And today I will be on my own. I'll talk about the biggest mistake marketers make according to psychology. This is, and I'm really wondering if you'll agree with me after the webinar that this is a really important thing that is very often omitted. And we see it over and over and over again whenever we work on projects with our clients. And no matter if it is a project where the focus is increasing conversions online, or it is increasing sales in retail, or it is transforming the hiring process. We constantly see marketers, business people do the same mistake over and over again. And that's what we'll talk about today. Let me just see if, let's give a couple more minutes to people to have the chance to connect, and we'll start in roughly 2-3 minutes. So basically what I will be talking about, or how I want to illustrate my point, is by showcasing 4 case studies. The first case study will be about the redesigning restaurant menu, which increased average customer spend. The second case study will be about Asana, the project management software, and their retention strategy. The third case study will be about redesigning a job ad, which resulted in a 3-fold increase in CVs received. And the fourth case study will be Netflix and Netflix registration process, which I think is absolutely ingenious. Fine. Imagine the following scenario. You walk into a store and you see a beautiful dress or a beautiful jacket. You try it on and you really like it. It is quite expensive. Say it's $100 or $120. So it's quite pricey, but you really, really love it. So, you're thinking, should I take it or should I not take it? And eventually decide to go for it. So you take the jacket, you're about to pay, when the salesperson comes to you and she leans forward and she tells you, look, I see that you really like this dress, but if you go to our second store, which is just 15 minutes drive away from here, you can get the same dress for $30 instead of 120. So you save $90. So question to you guys, would you go? Would you hop into your car and drive those 15 minutes to save 90 bucks on a $120 dress? Let me know in the chat if you would or you wouldn't. And I believe most people would. I mean, I definitely would. You know, it's 90 bucks for a 15-minute drive. It's a no-brainer. I definitely would. But imagine a different scenario. You walk into a store, you again look at the product, you love it, you try it, you fell in love with it, and you're about to buy when the salesperson comes to you and he tells you, look, if you just go to our second showroom, which is a 15-minute drive away from here, you can save $90. But this time you're shopping for a new car, which costs 25,000. So in this case, instead of paying 25K, you would only pay 24,910. So the question now, would you go in this second scenario? Would you jump in your car and drive 15 minutes to another showroom to save 90 bucks on a new car? Well, let me know, would you? And chances are you wouldn't. But why? I mean, this doesn't really make sense, does it? It is the same $90, which you can either save or not save. You know, it took you the same amount of time to earn the $90. But in one case, you wouldn't move your ass. In the second case, you would. So why is it? In a rational world, it, of course, would be a no-brainer. Everybody would go or wouldn't go, you know, in both scenarios. But in the world where we live in, everything depends on context. It all depends on context, and context is your super weapon. I love this quote, context is your super weapon. This is a quote by Rory Sutherland, which when I recorded an online course with Rory, this is what he said. And I truly believe this is so true, because you know, very often what we try to do is to change the offering, to try to you know, give people more value, because we think if we just give them a little bit more, they will value it a little bit more, and the chances they will buy go up. Well, the truth is that they might not. And the truth is that it's so much simpler to change the context, and the results can be astonishing. And about context, I'll talk about context today a lot. But let's divert a little bit from context, and let's talk about this big mistake that I believe marketers make. And the biggest mistake is that they overly focus on how to motivate customers. Over and over again, we see marketing directors, marketing departments thinking about what can we do to motivate my customers, our customers, to buy, to sign up, to subscribe. And today I want to argue that this is a fundamentally wrong perspective of customers. And you should, of course, think about the motivations, but more importantly, you should think about what's holding your customers back. So let's now have a look at 4 examples of why not, of the reasons why people were not doing what companies wanted them to do and how they addressed it. And the first case study I'll talk about is about an ingenious restaurant menu redesign that increased average customer spend. This is a fascinating case study by Jess Groom and by Cowrie Consulting, which, by the way, I believe are one of the most creative, innovative, and bright BE practitioners out there. So what did they do? This client approached them with the seemingly simple task: help us redesign our menu so that customers spend more. Well, what Jez and his team did were 2 things. First of all, they thought, so what can we do to motivate people to buy more? And the second, more important thing was that they thought, so what are the reasons why people are not buying cocktails, desserts, appetizers right now? What are the reasons? What are the barriers which are holding all these people back? And they did some investigation. They did some field research. They looked into literature, and what they found out when it comes to cocktails is that men are very often reluctant to buy cocktails. So I think, why the hell would men be reluctant to buy a cocktail? And it turns out that there's one uncertainty which is holding men back. And this one uncertainty is that they don't know what type of glass the cocktail will come with. And they're afraid that the glass will make them look feminine. Now, this is so simple, but so powerful. And so many men, and raise your hand if you're guilty of that. It happened to me. So many men will rather go for wine, beer, or whiskey, where they know they're on the safe side, just not to get embarrassed. So what did Cowrie do? Well, directly in the menu, they showed what kind of cocktail glass came with each cocktail. And what they found out was that for more price-sensitive customers, there was another issue. And the issue was that cocktails are quite expensive, right? And you never know if the glass will be full of ice or if there will just be a couple of ice cubes. So, price-sensitive people might think in terms of, well, if I take this cocktail for $15 and it's full of ice, there will be so little cocktail. So I'd rather go for beer or wine, where once again, I am on the safe side. And so again, what they did was that they showed in the pictures how much ice comes with each of the cocktails. So this is how they solved the cocktail issue. And then there was the issue of appetizers and desserts. In the original menu, which unfortunately I can't show you on the slide, but I'll tell you a little bit later on where you can see all the details about the case study. The original menu put a lot of emphasis and focus on the main dishes. Basically, the entire menu was filled with the main dishes, and there was still very little focus on the desserts and appetizers. And so what Cowrie did was they removed several main dishes and they dedicated an equal space on the menu. It was a one-page menu, equal space on the menu to desserts and appetizers. Why? Once again, it's not about motivating customers, but the reason why many people were not buying any appetizer, for example, was that they simply didn't notice it was there, or simply didn't occur to them, because the moment they looked at the menu, they saw the main dishes. So by so doing, they removed, on the one hand, choice overload when it came to main dishes, put much more focus on appetizers, desserts, and then did some other changes in the menu redesign. And their goal of increasing average spend by 4 cents was actually surpassed, and they increased the average spend by 13 cents. When I first read the case study, I was amazed because this is such a beautiful example of applications of science in business. So, first example of how understanding and removing the barriers which stand in the way can have a huge impact. Let's now have a look at a second case study, which is about Asana's customer retention strategy seen through a behavioral lens. Very often, when we think about retention and when we think about customers who come to us and want to cancel their subscription service, their membership, their plan with you, what we have the tendency to do is to persuade them, stay with us. Our product is so good. We can give you a better deal. We can give you a better price. So we always try to increase their motivation. And it's our first impulse to do so. But the truth is that one of the main reasons why people cancel is not really rational. You know, they don't always weigh the pros and the cons, but what happens is that they make an impulsive decision. And you could see it especially during COVID, when people were under a lot of stress, under a lot of uncertainty. And what happened was that suddenly they had this tunnel vision where they were only able to concentrate on the mission of saving as much money as possible. What happens when you're under stress, under uncertainty, is that you lose the ability to look at things from a perspective. So take Asana, for example. It's a great project management software. Take a small company which pays, for example, $100 or €100 per month for their for premium package. And it's really helping them a lot to be more effective. But now COVID hit, and the manager or the owner is really uncertain, and he or she is looking for every possible way to save money. So the first thought is, okay, I'm going to cancel Asana. So very impulsive, emotional decision, which hasn't really been thought through. And what we always advise our clients is when it comes to retention, your number one goal is to postpone the decision. Don't try to persuade the customer, just postpone the decision. If you postpone the decision by a month, for example, you give the customer the time to reconsider. She might not be under such amount of stress, for example. The situation might have changed. So your number one goal when it comes to retention is to postpone the decision. And this is exactly what Asana is doing. Now, when I when I want to cancel my subscription, sometime in the middle of the process, I get a pop-up window, I get a screen where they tell me, keep using Asana for 2 months for free. We don't want you to lose all the benefits of premium Asana. So they basically gave me 2 months of Asana for free, which I believe most people will accept, which means they didn't cancel their subscription. And in the 2 months period, as I said, the situation might change. They might see the cost in a very different light. And why am I talking about Asana? And by the way, they don't do everything right in their retention process. There's a lot of stuff they could do much better. But this is a really, really nice touch, which once again illustrates that when it comes to customer decisions, it's not always about increasing motivation. If Asana tried to increase my motivation when I'm about to cancel the subscription, they wouldn't be successful. By understanding what caused me to want to cancel, and by understanding that it might actually be a very impulsive decision, they are able to address the issue and remove the reason why I want to cancel. So a second beautiful example of how motivation is not exactly what we should focus on. The third case study I will talk about is how redesigning a job ad using behavioral insights attracted 3 times more candidates. And this is a case study that was led by my colleague Christina. This was a project for a call center, and this call center struggled to attract new employees. They tried all kind of job ads, but nothing really worked. And so when we looked at the job ad, we saw that it actually wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't performing very well. So the first thing we did was that we brainstormed and tried to figure out what could be the reasons why a person who reads the job ad won't apply. And we came up with a couple of very surprising reasons, which we found out in market research by talking to both existing employees and potential employees. And some of the reasons we found out were, for example, the uncertainty or the fear that I wouldn't be able to perform well at the new job. When you think about call center, being on the phone all day long, it is quite a demanding job. And of course, they give you training at the beginning, but will this training be enough? Won't the pace be too fast? Will they cover everything that's needed? And the training lasts for nearly a month. Will the month of trainings be paid or unpaid? So these were some of the uncertainties, some of the fears that people had, and they were not getting the answers to those uncertainties. So what we did was that we put it right in the job ad. We told them, look, no worries. The initial training will prepare you for everything and will adjust the pace to your needs. And of course, don't worry, because the initial training will be paid. So this was the first worry that, or the first reason why not, the first barrier, which was preventing people from applying for the job. The second thing we noticed was that this call center was trying to describe as many benefits the employee would get as possible. But what behavioral science teaches us is that not always more is better. Why? Well, for 2 reasons. First of all, if you get too much information, you are overwhelmed, overloaded with information, and something called action paralysis might happen. So very often, fewer information or less information is better than a lot of information. And more importantly, research showed that If, for example, you have a great offer and you add a small gift to this great offer, but the gift is quite low value, what will it do with how customers perceive the bundle? Well, in a rational world, of course, the value of the bundle is bigger than just the original offer, of course, because no matter what you add, it will always be more than not having it there at all. But we don't live in a rational world. And what often happens is that if the bundle contains a really, really low value gift, it reduces the perception of or the value people assign to the entire bundle. So they will value the bundle less than if there was no gift at all. And so we thought that this is what might actually be happening in this job ad as well. Because imagine you have 7 benefits uh, and just 3 of the benefits are really worthwhile. And the others are things of sort young and dynamic colleagues. Well, it's not really something which adds a lot of value. So we told them, guys, let's remove nearly all the benefits. Of course, they were a little bit reluctant. What? Why do you want to remove our benefits? I mean, that's what is selling us. And we told them, no, it's not. It might actually be harming. So we removed all the less valuable benefits, basically just kept 1 or 2. This is a third case study I wanted to show you where understanding and removing some of the barriers which stood in the way could actually really, really help. And I mean, the results spoke for themselves because there was a threefold increase in the number of CVs that the call center received after they published this new job ad. And last but not least, and this is one of my very favorite examples of how a company was able to perfectly understand what's holding their customers back. I mean, it's been a while now since I looked at the Netflix registration process, but for many years, the process they had in place didn't mention any benefits that Netflix offers. They didn't mention the thousands of movies and shows. They didn't mention skipping the intro. They didn't mention their algorithms. They didn't mention binge watching. They didn't mention any benefits at all. During the entire registration process, they only focused on the reasons why people might want to cancel. And the reason number 1 was or is uncertainty. And I guess we have all been a victim of, signing up for a free trial and forgetting about the free trial. And then we were charged for sometimes a couple of years until we realized that we are actually paying for something. So we are quite reluctant to give our credit card to sign up for any kind of free trial. And Netflix knows this. They know that people are afraid that they will forget about it. And they address the uncertainty head on. Unfortunately, I don't have the print screen in this presentation, but one of the most, I guess, one of the most ingenious screens on the internet is the step in the registration process where Netflix tells you, cancel before, and they exactly give you the date, to not be charged. We'll send you an email 3 days in advance so that you don't forget. Cancel online, no commitment. This is the only thing you see on the screen. And this is a beautiful example of how Netflix understood that it's not really about motivation. It's much more about removing barriers. And well, this is what I truly hope that you will remember from this webinar. Ask the question, why aren't customers doing what I want them to do? It sounds very similar to the question, how can I get customers to do what I want them to do? But it's so different. Just look for the reasons why they're not doing it. And I can guarantee, it's always an aha moment for our clients when in workshops, during the project, they start thinking in terms of barriers, in terms of reasons why not. It suddenly opens so many new ideas and inspirations. And of course, you won't figure it out from behind your desk. You have to get out there. You have to speak with your customers. You have to speak with the people in customer service, in call centers, in those people who are in charge of chat, because these are the people who deal with questions. And the truth is that if you have one customer asking about a concern or about an uncertainty they might have, there's 1,000 others who haven't asked, who simply gave up. So ask yourself the question, why aren't customers doing what I want them to do? And these barriers are very often psychological. We tend to focus on making the process as easy as possible, removing steps and so on. I mean, this is fine, that's good. But let's not forget about the psychological barriers. And those could be, do customers experience uncertainty? Uncertainty is a sales killer. Do customers struggle to choose? Are they maybe overloaded with choice, with information? Do they perceive it to be too difficult to do? And this is another wonderful concept called perceived effort. Because if you have something which is fairly easy to do, people can still perceive it to be difficult. And well, this is a real problem. Do they miss an important information? So these are the things which I really urge you to think about when you want to change your customers' behavior. And before I wrap it up and we open for questions, there's one more thing that all these 4 case studies have in common. All these case studies are published in detail on InsightB. I don't know how familiar, I don't know how you got to this webinar, but maybe many of you don't know what's actually InsightB. InsightB is the largest hub for behavior economics and consumer psychology case studies, courses, how-to guides, which is created by the top experts out there. We partnered, because we felt that there's simply not enough emphasis on the business applications of behavioral insights. We had all our clients asking for more examples, more case studies. So we decided to change this, and we created InsightB, and we partnered with several dozens of amazing experts like Rory Sutherland from Ogilvy, Jess Groom from Cowrie, Simon Moore from Innovation Bubble, and others who help us create online courses, who most importantly help us create and contribute with amazing case studies. There are dozens of case studies, videos, and articles which tell you exactly what they did and how you can apply it in your own business. And since this is the first webinar, I guess, after the launch, which happened some 3 weeks ago, we want to give you a little gift. So for all of you guys watching now, for all of you registered, um, if you take any plan on InsightB, and there, I mean, we really want to make it affordable. They start at 10 euros. If you take it right now within the first 24 hours, we'll prolong it by 4 months for free. If you do it in the second 24 hours, you get 2 months. In the third day, you only get 1 month for free. So go to insightbe.com, get a plan, and you'll get a free prolongation for 4 months. There's just one thing you should be careful about. Register with the same email as you registered for this webinar. So this is it from my side. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. These are my contact details. I'll be more than happy to talk in detail about what I just presented if you have any questions. And please feel free to ask me anything you want. I am here for you. We still have some time for questions. So anything which struck you, which you found interesting, which was unclear, please go ahead, and I'll be really, really happy to answer all your questions. When and please write the questions in the chat window. I will see it, and I will take them one by one and try to answer. I am always so surprised when new case studies come in, and again we see that all the BE practitioners, all the behavioral experts approach these business challenges with the same perspective, but removing barriers. And more often than not, the best solutions, those which worked the best and brought the best results, are not based on, or don't aim to increase motivation, but they tend to understand what's happening in people's minds, and they try to address the barriers. So make sure to go to InsightBE and check some of the case studies. And I'm still waiting for some questions if you wish to ask anything, no matter whether you are in LA, Iran, or Honduras. So I'm here for you. I will now hide my presentation, and will be patiently waiting for a couple of minutes if you wish to ask anything. The truth is that this perspective of barriers and motivations is not only applicable for marketing and sales, but whichever behavior you try to change, you should always start with the barriers. Just this afternoon, I recorded a podcast with a local newspaper, and we spoke about vaccination, about the strategy to get most people vaccinated. And once again, what I emphasized and stressed out was that we have to understand why people are not doing it not trying just to figure out what could possibly motivate them. Okay, so we have a question here. When you have a platform that does many things, like an all-in-one platform, how do you position it so that you don't overwhelm with information? That's a good question. And my point is not that if you have many products, if you have a lot of information, that you should just throw it away and stick with a couple of products. No. You have to create a really good choice architecture, because if or if you have to choose from between 100 products, it will be a really tough decision. If I can create such a choice architecture where instead of one complex choice, you take me through 2 or 3 steps, which will then reduce the choice of products or offerings which are suitable for my needs to maybe 5, 6, 7 max. This is the way to go. So I don't really know what platform you have in mind, but so I would do 2 things. The first one, when it comes to communication and information, I would think about which information is maybe redundant and might dilute the really important pieces of information. And the second thing is think about the right choice architecture to put in place so that you guide people to the appropriate choices. Okay, so we have another question. How do you prioritize which barrier to work fix first? This is also a great question. Well, as I said, you shouldn't only work from behind your desk, from your office. So very often, if you do proper customer surveys and proper research, you get a feeling for which barriers are the most important, or which barriers can discourage most people. And the good thing about removing barriers is that it's very often quite simple. It's much simpler than creating a new offering or redesigning your entire website. Very often removing barriers is easy, because you just add a piece of information here, you just reduce the amount of information or choices there, and that's why it should, as a rule, not be very difficult to address several barriers at the same time. Okay, another question. How would you motivate customers to buy something that is more pricey because it is handmade? This is a great question, and the answer comes from a concept called perceived value. The truth is that we are really bad at assessing what is an objective value of something. And that's why we use some shortcuts to determine whether, I don't know, $100 for these headphones are a lot or are not a lot. It depends on the context. And so what does perceived value say is that we use time and effort, which was necessary to create the thing, the product, as a proxy, as a shortcut to determine whether it's too expensive or it's well priced. And I'll give you an example. So take for instance Again, let's go into restaurants, and imagine there's one menu where you have a beef burger with French fries, and on the second menu you have a burger made from our home grown sorry, French fries made from our home grown potatoes, which were hand cut and fried twice, right? You suddenly, as you hear or read that it was home grown and hand cut, it, you feel the effort and the time which was put into it, and you will be willing to pay much more for the second French fries than for the first French fries, where the perceived value was very low. So what you should do, you should really try to describe all the effort and the time which went into it, describe the process behind it, describe the story behind it, so that you increase the perceived value in the eyes of your potential buyers. And there I guess two really good articles on InsightB regarding perceived value. So with a lot of examples, I think that will help a lot. And there's another question, an odd question. Can you give examples where your interventions did not work? More importantly, why they did not work? Good question. And yes, it happens that things that we suggest simply don't work. The first one which comes to mind is a project we did for a call center where they asked us to redesign their call scripts so that the call scripts perform better, but they did not. And we then investigated what went wrong, and we talked with the call center agents, and what we found out was that uh, there's so much human factor involved that a call script is simply not enough, and that other measures and other approaches are much better than redesigning a call script. So this was an error on our side where we underestimated the human factor, which will eventually influence how our solutions are delivered. And often it happens that we design 2, 3, 4 versions of some kind of communication, and we test them all in an A/B test, and it turns out that some of them simply don't work. They sometimes even perform worse than the original communication. And this is why testing is really, really important, because you should use science and psychology and behavioral insights as inspiration. They can give you amazing ideas, amazing inspiration how you can do things better. But you should never forget to test your solutions, because at the end of the day, we're still dealing with humans, and yeah, only a properly executed test will tell you what really works best. So I hope I answered. I try to be really honest here. Another question: when trying to help your client and solve their problem, how do you know which driver or choice, or choice architecture is suitable? Well, again, a very good question. So we always start by something we call a behavioral audit. So we never start, when a client approaches us, we never jump to designing solutions right away. We always start with the behavioral audit, where we try to understand what is actually happening. What are some of the habits, that customers have right now, what might be some of the uncertainties, what might be some of the motivations, and so on. So we really try to understand what's happening in people's minds. What kind of shortcuts do they use when they decide about doing business with their client or not? And we use, and I don't want to go into deep in theory, but we use a model which is called COMB model. And what this model says is that behavior is influenced by three factors: capabilities, opportunities, and motivations. And if you want someone to do something, they must have the capabilities, they must have the right opportunity, and they must have the right motivation. And we derived a very elaborate framework, our own framework, where we match principles to each these behavioral principles and tools to each of the three kind of aspects of behavior, and we have an elaborate process which helps us to actually figure out what's best to do. But to be, I don't know, maybe so you have an actionable answer. Never jump to solutions. Always try to understand what's causing the current situation, what's happening right now. And very often, if you understand that, you'll basically have a really good feeling for which behavioral tools to use. Okay, another question. What are the key approaches for a new manager to streamline or look into for an e-commerce company who is seeing a slowdown in sales, employee demotivation, etc.? Well, there are several problems that you mentioned. So, employee demotivation is very different from sales slowing down or decreasing. So basically, you have to approach each of those challenges separately. And to a large extent, I will probably repeat myself, because no matter what problem or challenge or issue you're trying to solve, you always have to start with trying to understand why is it happening. So what's going on right now? What are the barriers which maybe discourage customers from buying from you? How they perceive you? So what we see so very often is that companies have no clue what's happening, and they just do some wild guesses, and they invest a lot of money into creating all kind of solutions which don't work, because they didn't spend enough time trying to understand what's happening right now. And it's not easy. I can tell you, because and we see it with all our clients, that they try to push us to give them the solutions right away. So you'll experience a lot of push, I believe. But I guess there's no better way than to really trying to understand what's happening, and start by maybe just talking to some of your employees and some of the customers, or look at what customers are asking in customer service. This can give you really a lot of great insights. And the last thing I'll say is that to increase sales is a very complex process, or a very complex endeavor. And so stating your goal as I want to increase sales is simply not enough. You have to dissect it into smaller behavioral challenges. So what is the behavior that I want to achieve? What do I want my customer X, Y, Z to do? And if you manage to clearly define the behavioral goals, then you will be able to start designing some strategies to actually approach these challenges. Okay, another question. Do you know a study, a case study about how to overcome major pessimism of a society like distrust stock markets after a major market crash and gaining the trust of people to invest again? Um, well, let me think for a second. Um, Honestly, nothing really comes to mind when it comes to case studies. Um, Maybe what I would do on InsightB, there is a database of nearly I guess around 700 or 800 BE case studies and interventions. A searchable database. You can search by keywords areas. So go there and maybe you'll discover some interesting case studies. Okay, guys. So I guess we have no more questions. Also, time is running out. So I want to thank you all for being here, for tuning in and listening to this webinar. I very much hope that you enjoyed it, that you learned a lot. Please feel free to reach out and talk to me about uh, behavioral insights about consumer psychology, and make sure to check out Insight BE. And you have 24 hours from now to get those 4 months for free. See you around soon. There will be another webinar in roughly 3 weeks' time with another behavioral scientist or behavioral practitioner. They did some amazing projects with aiming at increasing sales and so on. We'll announce it soon enough, so see you there. Have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, wonderful morning, wherever you're tuning in from, and speak soon. Bye.